Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dutchy Gaming, and the next video on the channel in the Tornado Shop series. So the first full video covered leveling through the campaign. This is going to cover maps up to the second Maven boss fight, so sort of tier 8, tier 9 maps, and just show you how to get there smoothly and quickly, and it transitions immediately on from the last video. So things that we're going to cover off in this video are the gem links that you should be aiming for, how to get better gear, how to craft better gear, and how to do it yourself and very, very cheaply. Going to recommend an Atlas tree to take, which is going to help you get some currency and make sure you're still getting decent map progression. Going to include some general tips and tricks to help you along the way, along with information about how to map and progress quickly once you get into maps. And then we're just going to cover a few things like some maybe anointments that you can do early, certain uniques that you may be able to go for to help your cause nice and cheap. But really, we're just going to go step by step through what you're going to need to do to get to this sort of tier 8 Maven invitation stage really, really quickly and cheaply. So without further ado, let's jump into the first section. So the very first thing to look at before we jump into the details of how to map is what skill you should be using. So if you've left the campaign and you were using Rain of Arrows, you want to transition to Lightning Arrow or Tornado Shot as soon as possible. If you're already transitioned to Lightning Arrow in the campaign, then this section you can probably skip. But what you want to do is get a better clear skill than Rain of Arrows. It's decent, but we want to take the most advantage of our Ascendancy, which we've now got +2 arrows and chain, and neither really does anything for Rain of Arrows. So once we've got our third lab completed, we're going to transition to Lightning Arrow. I would probably wait until you've got a 5 link to do it, because one of our links wants to be greater multiple projectiles so that we've got massive coverage on our clearing. So this is really the only change you need to make in terms of your skill gems. So you're going to be running either Lightning Arrow or Tornado Shot. It's up to you. You're going to be running greater multiple projectiles. You're going to be running Inspiration. You're going to be running Mirage Archer. And then you want Trinity. That's the 5 link that I would recommend. I transitioned straight away to Tornado Shot because I felt it was a bit better for single target on bosses, but clearing with Lightning Arrow is definitely better. So it's 100% your choice what to do. This build all the way up to sort of red maps and even, when you're farming endgame content, Lightning Arrow and Tornado Shot works just as well. It's just what skill you prefer. And I prefer Tornado Shot because I feel it has better single target potential with overlapping arrows. So the first thing I want to point out before we go any further is if you are continuing on from the last video and you're with my skill tree and my similar gear and that sort of thing, we go in Dex accuracy bonus and we are just using a level 1 precision when we enter maps. You're going to need to keep an eye on the accuracy. When you enter maps, it should be fine. But the more you level up, the more you actually need to cap your accuracy so your rating goes down. So, for example, I went into maps and I was 700 above my rating, but by the time I'd hit level 75, I was actually under it, and I'd run about, I'd say 7 or 8 maps where Precise Technique was not even proccing because it didn't have enough accuracy. So you are going to need to keep an eye on your accuracy. So the next thing to talk about is loot filters. It's really important to have a loot filter that does what you want it to do. So you don't want something that's too strict because you're going to go into maps pretty badly geared. So you do want to see some rares and bases, but you don't want to be seeing every rare item that drops on the floor. So what I think is ideal is to set up a filter that has bases that you want to craft on with essences, that still shows decent currencies, but blocks out stuff like low stacks of wisdoms and portals, and certainly low stacks of armor and whetstones, because you're going to be getting them by the truckful when you kill some arch nemesis monsters. You're going to get like 80 drop at a time. There's no point having them in your loot filter. So in the description, again, if you follow my profile, there is a filter in there called Bow Early Mapping. And what this does is it highlights the stuff that we're going to use to craft in, like feathered arrow quivers, spine bows and imperial bows, amethyst rings, heavy belts, Agarth amulets, just things that we want to use essences on in the build. The reason I've highlighted them is you are going to be picking up a lot of weeping essences, which you can't use on rare items, but you can use them on white items. So if you've got the stash space, pick up as many as you can. To use the low-level essences on them, you never know, you might craft a really good item. If you don't, just sell it to the vendor and move on. But they're there so that you can pick them up and you can use them to craft on. The next thing to talk about is your Atlas tree. So how do you want to progress that? Now, I don't actually put a lot of League mechanics and content into my Atlas tree early, other than essences. I really want to zig I really want to get as many maps as I can. So I'm going to take mostly map nodes. So if we have a look at my tree at the moment, I have got 31 maps completed, and then I've got an extra point because I've done a Maven encounter. So I've got 32 points. And as you can see, I've only taken these essence nodes. Everything else is just stream of consciousness, map nodes. Then I'm going up to get that extra essence to get them a tier higher. Then we're going to go map nodes, and then more essences. The reason I'm doing it is I want to push my progression fast, but I want to make money as well. And in early maps, essences are easy, the best money maker. What maps will also allow you to do is build up a ton of maps that are disposable because you won't necessarily need to run them. You can just put them in, put 2 cows on the map device, get loads of essences in there, get in, get out, sell them, use them for crafting, whatever you want to do. So at the moment, I've completed 33 maps since I left the campaign. And if we have a look here at my dump tab, I've got tons of maps, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yellow tier maps, and I've only done about 3 or 4 of these maps. So these are already starting to drop and pay dividends with the map drops that I'm getting. This tree will work even better when you get to higher maps. You get a couple of void stones to get even more chance to drop higher tier maps. And that's what we're going to be pushing out. We're going to be aiming for this strategy at the end to really focus on selling maps, guardian maps, essences, stuff like that. And this is a great way of getting there quickly. I'm still super comfortable with the content on a 5 link. The tier 6 and 7 maps are absolutely fine. Even if they're all horrible, they're doable. I might take the odd death, but at the moment, I think I'm fairly comfortable. Yeah, so I've died 5 times all the way through, and I think I died twice in the campaign, 3 times in maps. But we're already level 77, 33 maps in, so that's not too bad. This is a tree that I would recommend. Like, the final tree for this stage will be in the video description anyway. But from here, it's just getting essences here, then going here, and then we're filling out both the map nodes. Then if you want to, after, you could go here. I tend not to. It makes essences super hard when they do have like 5 or 6 monsters in. I think you're best off just leaving them out. But this is the Atlas tree that I would recommend when you're just starting out with a bow character in your League Start scenario. Okay, so next we're going to start moving on to the juicy stuff, which is the stuff I'm sure you're dying to know. How am I going to progress my gear and get sort of mid-tier yellow maps with, you know, leaving the campaign with what's probably essentially a pile of junk? And it's the reason we're taking essences really early on. Yes, we don't have anything like essences or a tier higher or duplicated, but just this node alone will put screaming essences into your maps, and that's ample in terms of the level of essences to be crafting gear to get to mid-tier yellows. And by the time you get there, you're going to have your other Atlas nodes for essences, and you can then craft upgraded gear. So let's go through my gear that I've been crafting. The only thing I would recommend you buy if you're in trade is a 5 or a 6 link to socket your main skill, because obviously the more links you can add, the more damage you're going to do. If you can afford a 6 link, I would do that. But now I'm just running a 5 link. The reason it is 6 is because I just couldn't buy a 5 link at this stage in trade. So I paid 5 chaos for a 6 link, which is probably about what you'd pay for a good 5 link, and then I'm just leaving that slot empty. So my character has got gear that's probably good enough to push into mid-tier yellow maps, and I've completed just over 30 maps. So let's go through each individual bit of gear and how you're going to craft it. So for your bow, I've added Imperial bows and spine bows to your loot filter. For non-crit variants, I think Imperial bow is better because you get increased elemental damage with attacks and the attack speed is decent. I'm just crafting these with Essences of Wrath. So Screaming is going to be what you're going to use because you don't really want to waste 3 Screaming to combine to 1 Shrieking. So you're crafting Essences of Wrath on this bow. It will guarantee the lightning roll that you see there, 20 to 400. It will roll, you know, a certain range. That's guaranteed. Then you're looking for a second elemental damage and attack speed. The attack speed can be crafted. So I've been quite lucky with this bow. I've got 3 different types of LE damage on it. But essentially what you're looking for is, I would say, a tier 3 or tier 4 roll like this cold damage here to go along with your lightning damage. That can be either fire or cold, with an open suffix to craft attack speed so you can get your attacks per second up a bit. In terms of LE DPS, you probably want something 600 plus would be great, and that's going to see you through sort of mid-tier yellow maps. For the helmet, you just want to pick up a good base and then use any essences that you can that you find that either add resistances or guaranteed life. I would keep your Wrath for your bows. So for your helmet, you're going to be using either Hatred essences, and get essences, or you can use greed to force the life onto the helmet. The chest piece, if we assume we're buying it from trade and it's a base, you're just going to use essences of greed on it to force life. Gloves, essences again, you've got two options here. Either greed to force life, or you can use zeal to force attack speed, because that's a really nice stat to have, and you can get sort of 15% with essences. You can also craft it on the crafting bench, so you could use essences of greed, see if you find an open suffix, and then you could craft attack speed if you don't need the resistances. Boots, we obviously want movement speed. Now, these are boots that I found really early on. At the moment, I'm just sticking with them. I would like an upgrade. So for boots, you're either doing zeal to guarantee the movement speed, or you're doing greed to get life, and you can always craft movement speed like I've done here. Onto the quiver. So if you're trade on the quiver, I would just search for any feathered arrow quiver with bow, attacks, fire, and additional arrow. I want you guys, as I've done, to switch to tornado shot as soon as you can, because you don't want to wait till sort of tier 10, tier 11 maps to swap to the skill that you ideally want to play. I swapped to tornado shot as soon as I got a 5 link, and it's felt absolutely fine. Bows, fire, and additional arrow is really, really helpful because it improves clear and it improves single target. And you don't really need a lot else to go along with this. If you could just get bows, fire, and additional arrow, and anything else that adds DPS, it can be prod speed, it can be damage of bows, it can be flat damage, anything, or even just a big life roll or some attack speed. If you can find an attack quiver with an additional arrow and some decent damage stats on, this will do you for absolute ages. And if you can get a couple of decent, say, prod speed and bow damage stats, it's going to do you until tier 16 maps. It's a really important thing to aim for. If your SSF is unlikely you're going to do it because it's hard to roll. If that's the case, I would use Dread Essences. This rolls projectile speed, which then doubles up because it adds damage as well. Or you can use Woe Essences. I think they are the spell essences. They add damage to bows on your quiver. And then that leaves us with the jewelry. For the belt, you've got two options. Essence-wise, you can either use Anger or you can use Hatred to guarantee fire or cold resistance. Or if you found some Harvest, you can use Reroll Attack, which is what I did with this belt because it guarantees elemental damage with attack mod. Now, it's probably not something you need to do because you can actually craft up to 33%, I think it is, on the bench. So you're kind of hoping that you maybe hit a 40+% roll. So I think still essences are the best way to go and save your harvest juice. So I would use, yeah, either Hatred or Anger essences on your belt. For your 3 jewelry items, we really want to try and start adding some DPS in. So for both the rings and the amulet, I recommend you either use essences of Suffering, Torment, or Anguish. These all add flat elemental damage to your attacks. Really helpful. You just literally spam those until you get other resistances, life, whatever it is that you're looking for. Later on, we're going to fit in things like minus mana cost to attacks and things like that. But until we're at a 6 link, we don't really need to bother looking at that. So for now, we're just looking at a basic gear set that's going to easily see us through mid-tier yellow maps. And then the last thing to mention for your jewelry is you can get some really, really cheap anoints that are absolutely awesome for tornado shot and bow builds in general. One I would recommend you do, and it is so cheap, is Fury Bolts. So this is a teal oil and 2 green oils. I think they're called verdant oils. These are all oils you would just pick up if you just do some blight encounters in fairly low level maps. It gives you 20% projectile speed, which turns into 20% damage, plus 20% pros damage, plus 20 strength, which is actually really good because it's something, if we look to fit determination into the build later on, we might actually struggle with. I would 100% recommend this anoint, and to be honest, this anoint can see you through to tier 16 farming anyway. For your flasks, you're looking to add a diamond flask into your already set up jade and granite. I probably might have done the campaign ones the wrong way around because I ended up not getting offered one, but we all know how many flasks end up dropping with these arch nemesis modifiers. So I'm not too worried. I'll just wait until a diamond flask drops, and then I'll add it along to my jade and my granite, and a quicksilver and a life flask, and then I'm good to go. So that covers off all the gear and really what you're looking to do. And it is just essentially crafting with essences. I wouldn't waste like alchemies trying to, you know, maybe hit a lucky roll on items. Essences are easy the best way to do it because you guarantee one mod. Most of this gear I crafted within 10 maps of me starting. and it's already ample good enough. Like I got quite lucky with my bow that it had an open prefix just to craft some extra fire damage, but it won't take you long just to roll any second damage when you're rolling with Wrath essences. Only reason I'm saying to roll with Wrath is because you will have been using Lightning Arrow, so you'll have all these lightning nodes here. So if we can make lightning our primary damage in terms of our attack, these still have quite a big role to play. The next thing we're going to talk about is how to approach mapping. One thing I suffer from league after league is I might get through the campaign fairly quickly, then I really stutter when I get to maps. I take too long in between maps, looking at gear, looking at trade, looking at how I might be able to switch things up, when really I just want to be getting my map bonuses, getting my Atlas tree going, and just naturally progressing my gear as I go along and collect essences and things like that. So there's two things I recommend in this regard. Don't waste time. If you don't need to trade, don't do it. Buying upgrades early on is actually really not a great idea because things are quite expensive early, and by the time you then want to move them on because you've outgrown that item, it's not worth anything. So you might go, oh, there's this amulet on trade. It's like 100 all resist. It's got some life. It's only 10 chaos. I'm going to buy it because that fixes all my resistances. And then the next day, you're like, well, this amulet doesn't give me any DPS. I'm now well over capped on resistances and I don't need the life. I'm going to sell it. And then it's worth 2 chaos. Only buy upgrades if you are at a sticking point where you need that upgrade to continue. Yes, it's always nice to have a bit more damage, but do you need it? If you don't, just carry on. Whatever that item is going to be cheaper in an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours, unless it's a really specific, like unique item that we know is going to go up in value. If it's just a bog standard rare, the more people get to maps and the more rares become available, the cheaper average rares are going to become. Yes, the more expensive the top gear is going to become, but we're not looking to get that at this stage anyway. And then the second thing is don't complete maps unnecessarily. What I mean by this is you should always be looking to do maps that you don't have your Atlas completion on. They should take priority. So if we look at my Atlas tree here, I've done 31 of my favorite maps and I've only completed 33 maps in total. So other than 2 maps where I've run repeats because I've actually run out of uncompleted maps to do, every single map I have run has been uncompleted. The reason I've been able to do that is, as we mentioned earlier, I'm taking map nodes wherever I can, and I'm always using Kirak. If I get a Kirak mission, I'm going to him, I'm using the mission, I'm then saving up the currency to buy every single uncompleted map. I'm not then running another Kirak mission until I've bought all of those maps. Like, don't run your Kirak missions back to back until you've bought all the maps from him that you need for completion. So let's talk about master missions. When should you use your master missions? Lots of people, will use them as soon as they get them. Some will save them up for specific points. So I'm not going to cover Einar, Alva, and Nico because they don't really matter to your progression too much. Like Alva is helpful because you can get decent temples, but I would rather save Alva missions up for if I want to specifically go into sort of Atlas and Incursion on the skill tree. Then I've got lots of missions that I can run and I don't have to go buying stuff like compasses. So we're just going to focus on Jun and Kirak because I'm sure people are going to say you've got 6 Jun missions to do. You're missing out on Unveils, and yes, I am. The reason I'm leaving them is because I want to get my Essence nodes unlocked first on the map device. So what I'm going to do, which will be towards the end of the video when I've got everything unlocked, is once I've got Amplified Energies on Essences and I've got Crystal Resonance, I'm going to have an absolute ton of white maps that I'm probably never going to look to run again. So I'm probably going to have, 30, 35 white maps. There might be 20 that are a decent layout. I'm saving the missions so that I can do basically essences with essence on the map device because I should have at least one free one by then. And then I'm going to use my betrayal. I don't want to waste time doing betrayal early on when I'm not very well geared. This way I can get my essences and my betrayal done at once. The betrayal missions will be super easy because I'll be over sort of juice for the content. All I'm really looking to do is then spam betrayal missions so that I can then get a lot of unlocks all done at once. And then when it comes to the next video that's going to be pushing into red tier maps, I've then got a lot of crafts unlocked. I don't need them at the moment. I'm not looking to craft anything that costs chaos onto my gear because I'm not looking to keep a lot of this gear for much further on. So that covers off the betrayal missions. In terms of Kirak, I'm not using them because I'm only using the missions once I've bought out all his stock of maps that I need to run. So if we go over to Kirak at the moment, he has got quite a few maps that I do not have Atlas completion for, and I don't have the maps. I don't have the currency to buy them. So I don't want to use my next Kirak mission until I've bought all of these maps, then I can use the next Kirak one. It's likely that as I'm starting to push into yellow maps, I'm probably going to drop a few of these, which means I might only have to buy 2 or 3 of these maps. But at the moment, I need the currency to buy them. I don't have it. So that's why I've still got Kirak missions, because I'm only using them once I've cleared out this inventory. And I recommend you do exactly the same. So we're at the stage now where I'm just going to go and complete the Maven invitation. I haven't really upgraded my gear at all since the last part of the video. So we're just running the 5-link, 4-link ballista, and then our other items that we've crafted. So I'll quickly run through the gear just so you can see kind of what I'm taking on this encounter with. I've not managed to get my guard skill online yet either, but I don't really need to because I'm not running determination yet. So again, I'm not worried about that, which is why I have empty links. Eventually, obviously, my ballista will move into the bow once I get a 5-link, and then the helmet or whatever other one will be used for the guard skill. So the helmet is life and resistances, no enchantment. Body armor again is just I rolled with a greed essence, so whatever stuck is what I'm running. I could definitely re-roll this, to be honest, but it has got quite nice armor and evasion. Amulet have not managed to get the oils I need for the anoint yet. We've actually not seen Cassia in maps much at all. But other than that, it's just a tiny bit of lightning damage to attacks, life resists. The rings are the same. Bit of lightning damage to attack, life and resists. And same again, a little bit of cold damage to attacks, life and resistances. The gloves, not really got anything good on these either. Again, it's just life and resistances. The belt, we finally got an item that's actually got some damage on it. It's got 35% early damage to attacks, mediocre life roll, and very bad crafted hybrid resistances. This 100% needs an upgrade fairly quickly. The boots are also pretty bad. They are very low life resistances and not even 25% movement speed. But I don't really want to upgrade them until I've got this Maven invitation completed. And then I'm going to look for some serious upgrades. So I'm not just going to try and upgrade them a little bit. As I say, it'll be covered in the next video, but this is when I'm going to look at each specific piece and go, right, this is what I want to carry me to T16 maps in terms of gear. So this is what I'm aiming for, and I'm going to take it item by item. Now, whether this is farming tons of essences, which we'll go through in a second, and crafting yourself, or selling essences and buying the gear if you're in trade, loads of different ways, but I don't want to go in small steps. From here, I just want to upgrade to the build that's going to take me to not necessarily comfortably farming T16s, but to the gear that's going to take the first 2 pinnacle bosses down. So, as you can see from my Atlas tree, I have unlocked the essences here, here, and here, and then I am going to go and get these ones eventually, but I'm going to go to shaping the mountains first. I've probably had them for about 10 or 12 maps, and essences are looking pretty good in terms of either crafting or selling. Loathing are worth money early on in the league because they're your reservation essences. In the first 2 days of the league, shrieking on their own are probably going to be like 3 to 4, 5 chaos each. Got some wrath, which again are good because they're for lightning strike builds, stuff like that. They're always worth money. So we've got enough that we could sponge some together and sell them. I've had a tabular drop again, which is worth a bit of money. And then at some point in the next video, we'll move to a 6-link once we think we've got enough currency to do that. But as I said, that's all going to be covered in the next video. So why am I pointing out this essence tab is if you get to this stage and you do feel like you're a bit stuck, but you don't have the currency to upgrade or you don't have the essences, the reason we're going essences is they do not change on map tier or map quantity or whether it's out, magic or white. Essences are just essences and are not affected by anything else. So all you could do is grab any white tier maps you've got, which is why I've saved my Jun missions up. Because what I'm going to do is literally just go into easy white maps. I can trounce in a couple of minutes, do essences, might even put essences on the map device because they're going to be worth it for 2C, and then do our betrayal missions. So I'll do 6 maps with that. So that in total would be 18 minimum essence monsters. Obviously, shrieking ones are getting doubled. We're going to get some corruption essences as well. We're just going to end up from these 6 maps with some nice unveils, get rid of all our dream missions, get some essences in, and then start selling them. And really at the moment, just saving money for a 6-link. So what issues have I come across other than the alchemy orb issue? And that is the main issue, was getting currency to roll or buy maps from Kirak. Other than that, it's been pretty smooth. Like, yes, sometimes when you alch a map, It's going to come with mods you don't really want to run, like you might have double tank mods or you might have double Fizzes extra. And if you die, you die. At level 81, it doesn't matter if you take a death every now and again, as long as you're not chain dying in maps. Don't know why I just did that. So I've died 7 times in total in this playthrough. And it's what I expect. I don't expect to go through this deathless if I'm pushing. I could be safer and just say, oh, I'm going to stay in white maps until I hit mid-80s and I'm going to stay in yellow maps till 90s. But in softcore, you're really, really gimping yourself if you're doing that because you are slowing down your progress. You know, I'm happy. I wouldn't care how many deaths I've got as long as I'm leveling up and I'm doing okay. So what I'll probably do is ding over to 82 and then I'll go and do the Maven invitation so that then it doesn't matter if I die like 2 or 3 times getting it done. I've got it done. And that's kind of the progress point of the video where we'll stop. So the final thing to go through before we go and do this invitation is links. I'm going to go through ideal links because I've still not got my links up and running because I haven't got a 5-link bow. And really you only need the 5-link for extra single target. And at the moment, I don't feel it's particularly lacking. So if you're on my setup and you're running, let's assume you're running 2 5-links and I'll go through the gem setup. So your main skill, Tornado Shot. You could still run with Lightning Arrow if you want. It'll have better clear, but probably worse single target. You're going to have greater multiple projectiles. Mirage Archer, you could switch this out again if you wanted to move much quicker through maps. You might have more luck with another skill gem, but I think early on Mirage Archer is really good and it's what I'd recommend. You're on Inspiration. This one's really important. And I'd always run it over LE damage with attacks. Otherwise, your mana is going to get out of control. And then Trinity. If you had a 6-link, you would just add LE damage into this red slot here. But I would not recommend doing it until you've got some minus mana crafts or Replica Conqueror's efficiency, as you are going to find mana is a massive issue. My helmet is where I've got my Ballista set up. So at the moment, I've got Ballista Focus, Ballista Tome Support, Lightning Arrow, and Added Cold. This could be LE damage with attacks, or it could even be Inspiration. Whatever your 5th link is, I would make it Inspiration. It's not the best DPS gem, but it just means you're not going to use all your mana to drop your 3 totems at bosses. And then we'll just go through the auras. You've got a Blood Rage for Frenzy Charges when mapping. You've got a Life Tap Sniper's Mark on hit. We've got a Lightning Arrow in here that I'm leveling. You obviously don't need that. It's just in case I want to switch the skills around. Then we've got Grace, Anger, Flame Dash, and Precision. Precision, I've got a level 6. I've got ample accuracy, so I don't need to push it any higher. And then in my offhand, I'm leveling an LE damage with attacks. I should also be leveling a determination here, and I don't know why I'm not. But yeah, you would level whatever gems you want in your offhand. So they're the links that I would go for. If you've already put determination into the build, then you're going to want to add in your guard skill, which would be custom damage taken, molten shell, and then an increased duration if you can fit all them gems in. You could also, if you wanted, add a Vile Haste for extra DPS at bosses. I think it's a very good idea to do because we don't have a Vile skill at the moment, so we may as well use one. So I would recommend adding in a Vile Haste. Okay, so leveled up and about to go and take on this Maven invitation. Just so I'll point out one thing. A very important single target gem I forgot to mention is Hydrosphere. You can also run Tornado if you want, but it can just be a bit annoying having to put down loads of different things. Hydrosphere applies lightning and cold exposure at -10. And then I've just leveled up and taken this mastery that makes all our exposure apply -18. So that's a massive increase in single target DPS. And we should definitely notice a difference when we go to do this invitation. Now, as I said, we are level 82. We're going to be taking on an invitation that's sort of Uber Lab standard of kind of boss health. And I've kind of gone through on the minimum gear I can because I want to show you what's possible. I recommend you get better than what I've got. It's just to show you that on pretty bad self-crafted SSF gear, it's more than possible to progress to mid to late tier yellow maps on, you know, no trade whatsoever. So let's stick this in and we will get going. Nearly got killed straight away, always good. Oh, this one does damage over time, doesn't it? I forgot about that. Okay, so fairly easy, apart from nearly dying straight away at the beginning. So you say it's pretty comfortable. So we'll go and get our points. Okay, and then I'll just go through a couple more points and we'll close out the video. So let's firstly look at the maps that I've completed in terms of this whole playthrough. Ignore the time because I'm obviously doing recordings, I'm making notes, I'm going AFK for hours at a time. But let's have a look at actual maps for this character. So we're going to forget that Maven Crucible because that is not a map. So we've got, and that one. So we've got 23 on the first page. We have 25 on this page. So that's 48 maps. And then we go this page here. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're 53 maps into our playthrough. So 53 maps in, 7 deaths, second lot of Maven bosses done, 43 Atlas passive points acquired, which means, as I mentioned in the video, most of the time when we're doing maps, I'm making sure that the ones that I don't have bonus completion on. And I've got a few more that I can do also, and some that I can buy off Kirak. I've still got plenty of Kirak missions to use, so I should easily be able to run through the yellow tier maps and get all that bonus completion sorted as well. So to close out the video, the reason I'm stopping here is this is the point where on a 5 link with sort of your early self-crafted gear, you're going to find maps start to become a struggle and not particularly fun. So that's why this video is just really going up to this point. Then the next video is going to cover how to push into your early to late tier red maps and really get a character that's quicker, tankier, does more damage, and is just much more fun to play. So don't think there's anything else to cover off in this video. There's going to be a written guide again to go with it that will be in the video description. There'll be a path of building for my character as it stands, but what I will do is go and fix the links so that they're the links that you should aim for and not the ones I've got because I'm too lazy to get them. Then the next part of the video is probably going to take me at least 3 to 4 days to get the footage recorded and actually find the time to grind to get to those red maps. But I will endeavour to bring it out as soon as possible. So thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.